Hello and welcome to Ukraine Today. I'm Rahim Rahimtullah. In today's press review, we'll look at comment and opinion in the international media following Russian President Vladimir Putin's visit this week to Italy, where he met Prime Minister Matteo Renzi and Pope Francis. For the BBC, Paul Adams cast the Russian leader's visit as a bid to break unity in the EU over sanctions on Russia. But Adams believes the attempt will ultimately be unsuccessful. He writes, "There's plenty of sympathy for Russia in Italy, as well as a widely held belief that the EU has mishandled the crisis in Ukraine. But if he's looking to the government in Rome to help him out, Mr. Putin is unlikely to get satisfaction." Adams goes on to say that even if he hasn't had success yet, Vladimir Putin is unlikely to be discouraged and will keep on with attempts to sow discord. He writes, "In truth, it's been apparent since the spring that European leaders were likely to renew sanctions, but this hasn't prevented Mr. Putin from seeking out chinks in Europe's armor, whether by wooing cash-strapped Greece or developing ties with Europe's far-right parties, like France's National Front. From Italy to Hungary, France to Greece, President Putin will continue to exercise what leverage he can." For more reaction, we turn now to The Guardian, which says Putin's time in Milan is a sign of the special relationship between Russia and Italy. Stephanie Kirch-Gassner writes, "The presidential visit underscores Russia's cozy relationship with Italy at a time when Putin is otherwise being treated as a pariah on the world stage. Barack Obama, the US president, warned at the G7 summit this week that world leaders were prepared to tighten sanctions against Russia if the conflict in Ukraine escalated." The Moscow Times, meanwhile, backs up that point, saying President Vladimir Putin's visit to Italy this week represents an attempt by the Kremlin to capitalize on Rome's affinity to Moscow, despite the stormy ties Russia currently maintains with many other Western states. So, whichever way you look at it, Italy appears to be a potential major ally for Russia in Europe, amid the Kremlin's freeze in relations with the West. This isn't something new, as the Moscow Times writes. Renzi has reportedly expressed his objection to EU sanctions against Russia in private. The Italian Prime Minister visited Putin in Moscow in March, one of the few leaders of European states to have done so since the outbreak of the Ukraine crisis. Although no agreements were signed during the visit, Putin said Italy was, quote, "one of Russia's most important partners in European affairs." Putin's trip to Italy appears to be a sign of Russia on the offensive. It came just days after the end of the G7 summit, where leaders expressed solidarity over maintaining sanctions on Moscow because of its annexation last year of Ukraine's Crimean Peninsula and its ongoing support for insurgents in East Ukraine. But as the visit to Milan shows, when it comes to the EU, Putin appears to be maintaining his strategy of divide and rule. That's all we have time for today. Join us again tomorrow for another press review. In Kiev, this is Ukraine Today.